Welcome back to the Kaspa Silver YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be explaining Kaspa for beginners. To begin, I believe the best way to explain Kaspa to anyone is to first address money and our current money system, to then go into Bitcoin and address why it was needed, why it did work, and where it's failing today, to then showcase Kaspa and why, in a world where Bitcoin exists, I believe Kaspa can coexist with it as well. So to start off, we're going to be talking about money. To begin, if you have never seen these numbers before, this is the US national debt. And you could see that when I took this picture, it was currently sitting at $34.6 trillion. This $34 trillion is gross federal debt, which is equal to debt held by the public plus debt held by federal trust funds and other government accounts. A lot of people point out this debt that the US is in, but one of the biggest debts that the US is in is US unfunded liabilities, which is worth about $291 trillion. The U.S. unfunded liability. This total U.S. unfunded liability includes Social Security, Medicare Parts A, B, and D, federal debt held by the public, plus federal employee and veteran benefits. And this debt right here is an indicator to show you that Social Security will not last forever. The government is not going to bail you out in the end. I'm not going to put my faith in the government supplying me money and wealth in the future, because if you do your research, Social Security is planning to end because the government is running out of money to support this. And because of this, I do not want to trust the US dollar as a way to store my wealth. The question is, how did we get here? Well, to start, in 1913, the Federal Reserve Act was created. This allowed a central bank to oversee the money supply. In 1933, President Roosevelt criminalized the possession of gold. This allowed printing money to go completely unchecked. In 1944, the Bretton Woods Agreement was established, and this allowed countries to agree that the US dollar will be backed by gold and all currencies will be pegged to the US dollar. In 1970, Nixon declares currencies are no longer backed by gold. This is due to the US printing much more dollars than gold available, causing the dollar to be overvalued. And because of all of these events, what do we get with the US dollar? This is what we get. We get a US dollar that continuously loses its purchasing power year after year. I explained each of the key events where there are listed out right here on this chart, and you could see that every time these events came to pass, the dollar continued to lose its purchasing power. And I can guarantee you that the dollar will probably be here for another decade. It will probably be the world reserve currency for another decade, 20 years, maybe 30 years. But what I can guarantee you as well is that the US dollar is going to be always trending to zero. And what's crazy is that in 2020, over $3.8 trillion were printed. And this was equivalent to 20% of all the dollars ever created. The fact that the federal government is allowed to print money will only always devalue your money. And this is a problem for all currencies worldwide. Because of this issue, this is why Bitcoin was able to find its value. On October 31st, 2008, Satoshi submits a white paper for Bitcoin to the world. It was entitled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And it says a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. On January 3rd, 2009, the first block was mined for Bitcoin. For the Bitcoin network to exist and thrive, it does this via mining. And mining is done with a consensus mechanism known as proof of work. In the beginning, when Bitcoin started, you could first mine it with your CPU, which are found in your everyday laptops. It then transitioned to GPUs, which are found more in personal computers. And then eventually, as the network progresses, eventually people are able to create dedicated hardware to only mine the specific algorithm, or in this case, Bitcoin. And this algorithm is known as SHA-256. These kind of machines called ASICs are what mine Bitcoin today, and they come in very different shapes and sizes. Each does different sets of power. On May 22nd, 2010, 10,000 Bitcoins were paid for 2 Papa John pizzas. And this is dubbed as the first payment of Bitcoin to receive a good or service. So the question now is, why was Bitcoin better than fiat, or our money? Bitcoin was censorship resistant. This allows for no middleman to conduct transactions. The max supply of 21 million coins was also very significant. This allows for no devaluing of Bitcoin by printing more coins than what is allowed. This is very different to our current money system, where a central bank is able to print as much dollars as they want. With Bitcoin, there's only a set limit that can ever exist. This creates much scarcity. At the time, Bitcoin was much faster and cheaper than using US dollars. Transactions would be processed in 10 minutes anywhere in the world, with the fee of only being around a few cents. And if you're thinking back in 2009, it would be crazy to think that in 10 minutes, I can move millions of dollars anywhere across the world, and the person would get it automatically, and it does not have to go through any central bank. This kind of technology would be crazy back in 2009. So the question now is, why Kaspa? Well, Bitcoin failed at solving the trilemma. In every single cryptocurrency, there's something called the blockchain trilemma. This is where a cryptocurrency has to sacrifice one of these 3 things in order to operate at the best way possible. With Bitcoin and many other proof of works, they all have to sacrifice scalability to ensure that the network remains secure and decentralized. Bitcoin can also only handle 7 transactions per second. This is not optimal for global adoption at all. Bitcoin can now only confirm transactions within 1 hour with much higher fees. This completely removes the cash system idea that Satoshi titled Bitcoin as. Today, Bitcoin is digital gold. This slowness and lack of scalability created a new narrative for Bitcoin that still gives it much value. Over the years, there have been other coins to try to fix the issues with Bitcoin, but these coins were simply copy and paste products of Bitcoin, of the code, and they simply fixed a few minor things, hoping that they would get adoption as an actual type of cash system. You have something like Litecoin that came out in 2013. It increased its blocks per second to 2.5 minutes instead of 10 minutes. And this would allow it to do 56 transactions per second. But what's significant about these coins and almost all other coins that have ever come after Bitcoin is that they lose value against Bitcoin forever. So it honestly made no sense to be an investor in these other projects while Bitcoin continues to gain against them. Also in 2017, a coin known as Bitcoin Cash was created. This remained with 10-minute block times, but all they did was increase the space of how many transactions could fit in a block, and that way it increased the transactions per second to 100 transactions per second. But yet again, this coin has also only lost value against Bitcoin. So the vision of peer-to-peer cash was lost in the crypto world of scams, meme coins, and smart contract projects. New projects threw away one of the major fundamentals of Bitcoin, and that is being fair launched. What fair launched is that when the coin is created, no one gets an allocation of the coin. No private investors, no team, no company gets any allocation of the coin in the very beginning of the project. That makes the project a lot more sound and also remains decentralized. Because when you give allocations to teams and public insiders and all this kind of stuff, you create a coin that is easily manipulative and can be dumped on the retail investors that come in later. If we look at other popular coins here, you could see that Ethereum had a public sale, which includes all pre-launch sale or lock drop allocations that were open to public participation, but then 15% went to insiders, which includes a team, a company, and VCs that purchase the token. And also 5% of Ethereum went to foundations and more. These are tokens allocated to foundations, community governed grant pools, or other incentives like testnet participation rewards. You look at something like Solana, almost 50% of all of the supply of Solana went to insiders, people who are able to buy up Solana extremely cheap before they give it out to the public. This alone, you already are losing in decentralization if you're not fair launched. And not only that, at least in the US, you may get into regulatory trouble when you do these kind of launches. This then brings us to Kaspa. After 15 years of Bitcoin existing now, we now have Kaspa. On November 7th, 2021, the first block was mined for Kaspa. The founder of Kaspa is probably one of the most significant things going for it because it provides a lot of trust and reliability that Kaspa has a very, very great future. In 2013, Jonathan Samplaninski, the founder of Kaspa, is mentioned in one of the first Bitcoin research papers. Jonathan was known for wanting to improve Bitcoin's protocol. And over the years, he continuously made new protocols to improve the technology that Bitcoin started. In 2015, this same research paper that became known as the Ghost protocol was later implemented into Ethereum, and Jonathan is mentioned in the Ethereum white paper. Ethereum is the second biggest cryptocurrency in terms of market cap. And also, if you look Jonathan Samplaninski up on Google Scholar, he is cited over 3,800 times in different research papers, white papers for different coins. And I have specific videos speaking about all the times Jonathan is mentioned. He is basically the reason why a bunch of cryptocurrencies exist today, because they all happen to usually use his protocol that he developed. Well, eventually in 2021, Jonathan created another protocol that today is running Kaspa. And this protocol was called the Phantom GHOSTDAG protocol. This protocol creates the first proof of work block DAG. This has never been done before in proof of work history. You could see over here that Bitcoin with its blocks just simply go in a very straight line, and each block contains transaction. Well, in Bitcoin, there's something called orphan blocks. These are blocks that get created at the same exact time, and these orphan blocks always have to be deleted. So that means that the mining energy to create these orphan blocks get deleted, and that means that mining energy was completely wasted. In Kaspa, there is no orphaning of blocks. All blocks are used, which means all mining energy is used in the network, which means that proof of work on Kaspa is much, much more energy efficient than on Bitcoin, because all energy is never wasted, and it creates a DAG looking like this. And this is why Kaspa is called a block DAG, because blocks appear in a parallel. When looking at some statistics between Kaspa and Bitcoin, they are both proof of work projects, but Kaspa is able to do 1 block per second, while Bitcoin is only able to do 1 block every 10 minutes. This allows Kaspa to process 300 transactions per second, while Bitcoin can still only do 7 transactions per second. Kaspa also has 10-second confirmation times, while Bitcoin is now struggling, hitting upwards to 1 hour to confirm transactions. And they are both fair launch projects. Kaspa has a 28 billion max supply, while Bitcoin has only a 21 million max supply. The reason with Kaspa having a much bigger supply is to introduce less scarcity of the project so that it is appeared to be used more than kept. When you have a much smaller supply, it helps and discourages people using it because of how limited the supply is. But with a much bigger supply, you could see Kaspa being used much more, since the price can never reach anywhere near $60,000 or $70,000 like Bitcoin does. And then lastly, Kaspa is viewed as a true digital silver, while Bitcoin is viewed today more as a digital gold. Kaspa does solve the trilemma, and this is the first coin to do this while remaining proof of work. The word Kaspa is actually Aramaic for silver or money, and Kaspa is fully intended to bring the peer-to-peer cash vision to life. That is why Kaspa has chosen this name, because the goal is to become a type of money. Kaspa is the most profitable ASIC mining coin. It is more profitable than Bitcoin, and this gives it much value, as Kaspa is the only alternative to mine if you care about profitability in the proof of work space for ASICs. Kaspa is actually doing the currency part of crypto, and this is what I care about, because this is the whole reason why cryptocurrency exists, is to become an alternative currency to the ones that exist today. In the other slide, I showed you the charts of other projects that have come about, that have tried to reimagine the Bitcoin idea, but they have all failed in the long run. But with Kaspa, this is not even the full chart. This is only going back to 2022 and not at the launch day. But you could see that ever since Kaspa has existed for the last 2 years almost, Kaspa has gained value against Bitcoin, which is extremely important when you're looking at other projects, if that they are able to gain value against Bitcoin, or at least move with Bitcoin in the long run. Because if they are not, then it's pretty much not worth it to be holding anything else than Bitcoin. But truly, this chart is showing a huge testament of the people that are holding their Kaspa and believing in this project, because what Kaspa brings to the table is actually true innovation, and is actually something that can revolutionize the crypto space. Now, does it stop there? It doesn't at all. Kaspa has tons of things going for it, and it is still basically pretty early, in my opinion, to the development phase of Kaspa. There's much to come, like increasing the blocks per second to 10 blocks per second. This is actually a picture of how 10 blocks per second looks, but the goal is to eventually hit 100 blocks per second. At 10 blocks per second, this will bring Kaspa's transaction speeds to about 3,000 transactions per second. And if we ever hit 100 blocks per second, we'll be able to run 30,000 transactions per second, which has never been done before on a proof of work, while remaining secure and decentralized. There's also a new protocol that's going to be built for Kaspa. This is called DAG-Night. This is going to increase the confirmation times as if they needed to be increased already. They're currently sitting at 10 seconds, but with DAG-Night, this will increase confirmation times to be internet speeds and practically be a click of a button. Kaspa today now has a foundation which will help with bringing more adoption, as now big money can now invest into this foundation to ensure that Kaspa has success. And the big thing going for Kaspa in the future also is smart contracts, which will create Kaspa to be a competitor to things like Ethereum and Solana in the long run. But the focus is creating the most perfect base layer in the crypto space. And this is doing it on proof of work because Jonathan has proved that proof of work can scale. And in fact, it can only scale if it remains proof of work. Thank you so much for watching that video, and I hope you were able to learn something new and see why Kaspa has true potential. If you want to learn about more specific topics, I have loads of videos talking about Kaspa and educating everyone on this project. I have been making videos for over a year for Kaspa. So if you want to continuously learn more, I have tons of videos that you can check out, and I'm always making new ones to help keep you guys informed and educated on this project known as Kaspa. So thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel so you guys cannot miss any other new videos. And as always, don't be average, be different.